We are a little more than 1 week away from Unstoppable in Manchester. The ReLoaded podcast is on the air. There is only one episode of Loaded left before that big event on Saturday, February the 9th. And we have a very special episode of our podcast for you today, featuring a little bit later on the general manager of Defiant Wrestling, General Ameen, is going to be joining us in a little while. James R. Kennedy with Dave Bradshaw here. James, you must be excited because you've had plenty to say about our GM in the past few weeks.
I'm excited, Dave Bradshaw, because I know this is a wind-up. Now, you've been saying this for the longest time. Oh, we're going to get the general manager on here. Oh, big whoop. You're going to be terrified, quaking in your boots. Well, let me tell you, Dave, I know what you're all about. Yes, it's a new year, but it's the same old Dave Bradshaw. You're full of crap, mate. To be honest with you, I do not believe for 1 second that you actually have General Ameen coming on this podcast. If he's as busy as you claim he is, there's no way he's here tonight.
All right, well, we'll find out, won't we? Well, he's not on yet, so you've got a little bit longer to live in this fantasy world.
Listen, I'm going to tell you why he's not on yet. Because he's not going to be here full stop. I know it's a wind-up. Come on, just come out with it. Admit it.
Well, in that case, you won't mind giving us your latest review of his job performance.
Oh, where do I begin? Okay, are you going to give me the floor for a minute here so I can go through this?
Go on.
Right. Well, first of all, what kind of criteria does Prince Ameen work from as the general manager? I mean, he's handing out title matches willy-nilly here. Some guy's glasses go missing, which, okay, we'll get to, and we've harped on about that enough, quite frankly. This should be over and done with. This is not a way to run a wrestling show, in my opinion. Now, it is just an opinion, and Prince Ameen, General Ameen, I'll give him that. He is the general manager. He does do some good things, but he continually undermines himself with this ridiculous hunt for these glasses, appointing Simon Miller as a deputy or whatever the hell he is. That worked out well this week. We'll get to that also. I just think that Defiant Wrestling needs direction, Dave Bradshaw. It needs someone strong. And Prince Ameen, he once was a leader for Gabriel Kidd, but where did that leadership go? Where is it? We're not seeing it week to week on Defiant Wrestling.
Well, we're about to talk about Gabriel Kidd, but just lastly on this then, just so I'm clear on where you stand on all this, should Prince Ameen continue to be our general manager? If you were in charge of the decision making, would he keep his job, yes or no?
Well, it's that's not a yes or no question.
Yes, it is.
No,
it is.
No, listen, because being general manager of a company like Defiant Wrestling with so many moving parts is a tough job. I'm not going to pretend for 1 second that it isn't. And okay, when General Ameen was made the GM, I did shake my head, roll my eyes, you know all that. But it is a tough job. But why is our general manager wasting so much time on this hunt for glasses? I don't understand.
Why won't you just say he should be fired? Why won't you have the courage of your convictions to say?
No, I'm not going to say that. I don't want anyone to lose their job. I'm that kind of guy, you know. Like, I think that everyone deserves a second chance to make a first impression. And all I'm saying is it's a plea to our general manager. Please, just dispense with this ridiculous hunt for some glasses and get on with your job. Please.
Well, you are the epitome of compassion, aren't you? You really are. Anyway, let's talk about a couple of things. You did mention Gabriel Kidd there, and one thing that is slightly souring my mood, despite your total obliviousness to what's going to come on this podcast, is Gabriel Kidd, because the way Gabriel Kidd, and of course his new best buddy Rory Coyle, behaved at the end of last Sunday's Loaded has really wound me up, and I think it's wound up most Defiant fans as well. The idea that Gabriel Kidd and Rory Coyle can just march into Simon Miller's office and demand a world title shot by threatening violence against an injured man in Simon Miller and get their way, that can't stand. I mean, what on earth? Apparently, I've now heard that it's official, and Gabriel Kidd's getting a title shot against Rampage on Sunday. And this is one thing, when our general manager does join the podcast later on today, which he will, I am going to ask him about.
Well, you see, in my opinion, this is justice, if you ask me, because last October at Fight or Flight, Gabriel Kidd wrestled for that very same title against that very same man, the Defiant World Heavyweight Championship against Rampage. And what happened? Our previous general manager, then Primate, he stuck his nose into Gabriel Kidd's business too. So I think this is right, that Gabriel Kidd gets another opportunity to fairly go one-on-one against Rampage. And I have to say, Kidd and Rory Coyle's powers of persuasion, they were mind-blowing. Incredible stuff.
Nice little sleight of hand there. I wasn't saying about whether Gabriel Kidd merits a title shot. I'm talking about the way he got the title shot. You know very well what I'm talking about. He essentially took Simon Miller hostage at the end of Loaded, along with Coyle. You can't condone that. Even you cannot say that is a legitimate way to get yourself a world title shot. Go on, I dare you to try and defend that.
What have I been saying all along about Gabriel Kidd?
I don't know. Well, I do know, but go on, tell us.
Oh,
again.
of course you know, because you 100% wholeheartedly disagree. Fundamentally, you disagree with what I have to say about Gabriel Kidd. But my point is, Gabriel Kidd is the kind of young professional wrestler that Defiant Wrestling should cherish. They should celebrate having an athlete the calibre of Gabriel Kidd, and they should want to see him succeed. Now,
hang on. So we should want to see someone who's going to try and end other people's careers, like he did with Primate, like he did with Simon Miller, actually, for that matter. We should embrace that, should we?
Now, listen, we're all young once, Bradshaw. We all make mistakes. The folly of youth has been much documented, and Gabriel Kidd is still a very young man. But not when he gets inside that wrestling ring. When he enters that wrestling ring in Defiant, he is all man. He's a young bull, but he's all man. And I worry about Rampage in this one, because the last time Gabriel Kidd wrestled Rampage at Fight or Flight, he was dangerous enough. Now he has Rory Coyle by his side. You're kidding me. This is going to be a different prospect, a different Gabriel Kidd for Rampage to face.
Now, we are going to ask General Ameen about this when he comes on in a minute. But also, before
change the record,
bring him
come on.
Just accept it. It's happening. I promise you it's happening. Before that, though, what if Kidd did win, apart from the horror that would inflict on all of Defiant Wrestling, having him as our ambassador, as our world champion, but just in terms of what it would do to Unstoppable, it would throw the whole show into chaos. Because at the moment, we've got a scheduled world title match between Rampage and David Starr happening in Manchester. Gabriel Kidd's part of a tag team match alongside Rory Coyle against Primate and Joe Hendry. So, I mean, if Kidd wins, do both of those matches go out the window? I don't even... We were talking last week about how there's so many questions going into Unstoppable about what's going to be on that show. And this would put another spanner in the works, possibly the biggest one yet.
Well, you're right. It's a very good point, because all along, I know the match wasn't confirmed as official until fairly recently, but David Starr, deep down inside, the product has known that he's going to face Rampage at Unstoppable. If Gabriel Kidd beats Rampage next week, takes that title away, that changes everything for David Starr, and it could be yet another reason for David Starr to show his frustration, vent his anger, that the rug is being pulled under him once again. But one hell of a match that would be. Gabriel Kidd going one-on-one with David Starr. You have to wonder how Rory Coyle would factor into that. He's always skulking in the shadows somewhere. But to be honest with you, and I'm going to shock you here, Dave, you're going to be prepared to be shocked. Brace yourself. Now,
I'm bracing myself. Go on.
There is a part of me that would love to see a young athlete like Gabriel Kidd become the Defiant World Champion. But on the flip side of that, I really want to see if David Starr can take that championship away from Rampage. Now, you and I have discussed what a great champion Rampage is. Even when he's injured, he has managed to overcome the odds against all comers. David Starr might be no different, but I would like to live my life knowing whether or not David Starr could beat Rampage or not. I don't want that match taken away from us, but there's a very good possibility it could happen after Gabriel Kidd forced Simon Miller into making that match.
Well, we're talking about the potential of a champion losing on Loaded. Well, last Sunday, a champion did lose on Loaded, didn't he? Let's talk about that for a minute. Martin Kirby. I'm sorry, it's hard to keep a straight face. Martin Kirby, the internet champion, losing to Benji. You heard that right. Martin Kirby pinned his shoulders to the mat for 3 seconds by Benji, after saying he was going to debut a brand new finishing move of death, Kirby. And it turned out the finishing move was getting himself caught up in an inside cradle for 3 seconds, which isn't the most devastating finisher I've ever seen. And
who was to blame for this match?
Kirby.
No, it wasn't Martin Kirby at all. It was Simon Miller. Simon Miller poked his nose into Martin. Everything was going so well until Miller decided to poke his nose in. Mr. YouTube Big Shot had to open his mouth and flap his gums and put Kirby into hot water. Martin Kirby, the internet champion, was not prepared to wrestle Benji. That's all I'm going to say on that. I cannot believe what happened, Dave Bradshaw. My Auntie Mavis actually had a coronary. She's a huge Martin Kirby fan, and she had a coronary when she watched it. She was that stunned. But don't worry, she's fine now. I bought her a replica version of the Defiant internet title. She wears a swimming cap, pretends to be Kirby. It's adorable. Everything's all good.
So, hang on a minute. If you're saying, then, if Kirby's not prepared to face someone, even someone as, with no disrespect to Benji, even someone as inexperienced as Benji, then Kirby can't be expected to win if he hasn't had time to prepare.
Well, that's exactly
what you're saying.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's not fair. Martin Kirby said to our general manager, I don't believe that I should be wrestling for free on YouTube. Now, I've said this last week. I've been saying it for the longest time. I agree with that because I think Martin Kirby he fits into that certain caliber of professional wrestler. You should have to pay good, hard-earned cash to see him do what he does best. He certainly shouldn't be shoved last minute into a match against, let's be honest, a guy with a dog's name. I don't understand what all this is about. It's yet again the management structure in Defiant Wrestling. They are continually undermining the best wrestlers that they have, and I don't understand why.
Oh, so it's Ameen's fault again, is it?
You're trying to put words into my mouth here. Come on.
He hired Simon Miller, and you're blaming Miller, so you're saying it's Prince Ameen's fault. I
believe that General Ameen would have hired Simon Miller believing that he would have the sense to do the right thing, not poke his nose into a champion's business. I mean, what next? Is my cat, Mr. Tibble's, going to get a crack at the Defiant Internet Championship? It's ludicrous. Come on.
All right, well, let's find out, shall we? Because I'm pleased to tell you that we now have our general manager of Defiant Wrestling on the phone.
Of course we do.
Can you hear me, the esteemed General Ameen?
Dave Bradshaw, what an honour it is to be on this podcast. I listen every week, Dave, and you, my friend, are the best podcaster going on the internet.
That is very kind of you to say so. My commentary partner's gone quiet. Are you okay, James?
There's no way. What kind of trickery are you up to, Dave Bradshaw? There's no way you've convinced the general manager with a schedule as busy as he has, and might I say picking out such fine suits that he wears every week on Loaded. No way you could convince him to come on this podcast.
Jamie, I am here. This is General Ameen. This is your boss on your podcast. And
he was actually just before you joined us there, he was just critiquing some of your management choices. James, do you want to repeat some of that?
Well, what I would like to say first and foremost is what an absolute honour it is, personally and professionally, to have our general manager join us. I mean, this takes things up a notch, if you ask me. We've been doing so well, had great feedback on the ReLoaded podcast, and now we have the Defiant Wrestling general manager. And sir, what an honour it is to have you on. And I can't see you, obviously, because you're on the phone, but I'm sure you're looking dapper, as you always do.
You know what?
Do you just call him sir?
Hey, you know what? It's general. It's general. That's how you address me. And, you know, I am looking dapper. And can I also say that you are not looking so dapper these days on TV? What? You need to stop going to those thrift shops, those charity shops for those suits. You need to, with all that money that I'm paying you, you should be going to the designer stores, the best stores. Instead, you're looking like a tramp on TV. I'm thinking about replacing you.
Wait a minute now. The reason, I mean, those suits, I can't give up a good deal. I was on my way to get some Gucci, I was on my way to get some really fashionable clothes, and I passed that thrift store and it was 2 for 1. What is a man supposed to do? I can't give up a bargain.
You know what, why don't I take some of the heat out of this situation? I know you're very sensitive about your wardrobe choices, and we've got a lot of other questions to get through with our general manager, so you just park that there for a minute. You take a breath. And if it's all right with you, General Ameen, we'll go through some questions that we've had from our fans.
No, of course, there's nothing more like than to hear the feedback from our great fans of Defiant Wrestling. I'm looking forward to this. Go for it.
All right. Well, actually, before we go to a fan question, I do want to ask you one thing that we were just discussing before you came on. The main event for Loaded this week is going to be Rampage defending the world title against Gabriel Kidd. Now, Kidd got that title shot after essentially threatening violence against your deputy, Simon Miller. So why is that match, given how it came about, why is that being allowed to stand?
Look, I don't agree with any of Gabriel Kidd's actions. I could go as far as saying I hate the guy. I mean, we've got a long storied past. He has turned into a despicable human being. He is the scum of the earth as far as I'm concerned. And he's recruited Rory Coyle, who is the sickest man that I have ever seen. Now, the two of them combined, I mean, they are twisted. And what they did last week, I can't approve of. It is not allowed in any walk of life. However, I did give Simon Miller the powers to make the matches, and he did agree to the match. I know it wasn't in the best way, but he did agree to the match. So therefore, the match must go on. And to think about it, does Gabriel Kidd actually know what he's going into? I mean, Gabriel Kidd has asked for a match with the baddest man on the planet, our champion, Rampage Brown. I mean, why on earth would anybody challenge Rampage Brown to a match? I have no idea. So there's a side of me that's actually going to enjoy that next week. So yes, I'll allow it. It's going to happen next week. The Defiant title is on the line. Gabriel Kidd challenging Rampage Brown.
All right, and that title match will happen this coming Sunday on Loaded, 8 p.m. on the Defiant Wrestling YouTube channel. Right, we've got more questions as well. Here's one from Kimmy. Kimmy's a regular listener to the show. She's tweeted in to say, question for General Ameen, will Pac get a future title shot after beating David Starr a couple of weeks back if David Starr becomes the new champion at Unstoppable?
You know, first of all, how excited are we all to have Pac on these shows? Did you listen to the crowd when Pac turned up? It was amazing. I was there in person. It was phenomenal. So I'm delighted to have Pac on the shows. I've known him a long time. He's on the shows. He's doing me a solid. He's doing me a favour. And about the question, Kimmy, well, we'll see. I'm allowing Pac to go out there next week and address the crowd. So we'll see what his plans are and we'll see how things go. But he's going to be around for a long, long time. I can assure you that.
Hang on, let me clear that up. So you're saying Pac is going to be on Loaded this Sunday?
Well, he's come up to me. He wanted to address the great fans of Newcastle. Well, how could I reject? He's going to be on the show and he's going to be addressing the crowd next week.
Well, that will be very interesting indeed to find out what Pac is thinking just a week or less than a week removed. By Sunday, we will be from Unstoppable. So we'll look forward to hearing from Pac. We've got some more questions for you as well. I've got one question here from at SwagPerfect88
what a name.
on Twitter.
What a name.
Saying he's been a long-time fan of Defiant, and before that WCPW. He wants to know, now that you're the general manager, what are you going to do differently to your predecessors, and where do you see the company going?
Well, what am I going to do differently? I mean, I'll tell you right now, this show is going to be entertaining. This show is going to be, from start to finish, action and entertainment. And that's what we've given you. We've given you that every week that this show has been back on YouTube, weekly, free of charge. So we're doing that. And where is it going to go? Well, you know what? The sky is the limit. With General Ameen in charge, the only way is up. We will be competing against the best companies in the world. We will be competing against all the independents. We'll be competing against everybody. We'll be competing against everybody that's on TV, like Friends. Is that still on TV? We'll be competing against anybody. We can go anywhere we want to, and it's because of these amazing Defiant fans we will go far.
What about the women's division, General? I mean, we've had a question from at Club Coverstone saying any plans to expand the women's division?
Expand? We have expanded. I mean, we brought in all this new talent. We brought in Kanji, who has amazed everybody and become the Defiant world champion in the women's division. We're bringing in all comers. We are not going to say no to anybody. Any talent is welcome. We will put the best talent in front of the world and see what they've got. And look at Kanji. She's thriving. We've got Kanji. We've got Bea Priestley, who wrestles in Japan, wrestles all over the world. We've got Lana Austin, and we've got the best women that we have to offer. And
actually, you know what? Let me on that subject. There was something I wanted to ask you related to Lana Austin. Now, Lana Austin, as we know, is going to face Bea Priestley at Unstoppable in a Falls Count Anywhere match. But before that, you promised Lana Austin, that if the information she gave you regarding the whereabouts of El Fantasmo's glasses, if that information turned out to be good, then you would grant her, I assume you mean this week on Loaded, a women's championship match against Kanji. Now, you've now seen where that information led. You've seen the video footage, apparently, that she was able to bring to you via the anti-fun police. So can you, first of all, we'll get on to what's on that video in a second, but can you, first of all, confirm that you are satisfied with the evidence she has helped you get and that she'll have a title shot this Sunday?
Look, this investigation has taken up a lot of my time. It's taken up like the entirety of my time, to the point where I've had to assign an assistant in Simon Miller, who's doing a fantastic job, by the way. It's taken so much time that I need good leads. I need someone to provide me with information that allows me to get to the bottom of this investigation. And Lana Austin has come through. She has given me information that allowed me to come to a conclusion. And we'll get to that. I'll show that. I'll tell everybody that next week. But she has come good. She's a woman of her word. And I am a man of my word. So, next week, this Sunday, free on YouTube, we are going to have Lana Austin challenging Kanji for the Defiant Women's title.
Wow. Well, that is big, big news. I also want to challenge you on another question going into Unstoppable, if I may. That is regarding John Bad Bones Klinger. Now, he was scheduled, as we know, to face Ilya Dragunov, who can no longer be with us due to other contractual obligations, so he won't be with us in Manchester. That does leave us without an opponent for Klinger on February the 9th. So we're just, a little more than a week away from that show now. I want to ask you directly, can you give us any information about who Klinger will be facing on that pay-per-view?
Look, seeing as though it's you, Dave, I'm going to give you some breaking news.
Ooh,
breaking
please.
News. This is only for the podcast and all the podcast listeners. You are the first to hear about this. You see, Bad Bones Klinger got in contact with me and he said he wasn't willing to cancel his flights. He wanted to turn up anyway, so I needed to scour the UK, scour the world to try and find an opponent. And one man stood out. And that man claims to be the savior of British wrestling. His whole ethos is to better UK wrestling. And he's perfect for Defiant. And that man is Justin Sysum.
Oh, wow.
Justin Sysum is going to go one-on-one. He's stepped up. He's willing to take on Bad Bones Klinger. Now, Bad Bones Klinger is unbelievable. I mean, I don't know. He is the ringmaster champion. He is taken on anybody. And according to Bad Bones Klinger, let me bring up his text here. It said Ilya Dragunov chickened out of his fight because he knows that he is the man in Defiant. So, yeah. So according to Bad Bones, he is the best wrestler there is in Defiant. But Justin Sysum is willing to take on Bad Bones. And that match is going to happen at Unstoppable.
Goodness me, that is true. We've seen a couple of odd cameos from Justin Sysum on Loaded in the past couple of weeks. So I was wondering whether that was just some kind of inside joke or whether there was something more to it. And you're saying that just in size, and one of, let's face it, one of the most controversial men in British wrestling at the moment, is going to be at Unstoppable to face John Bad Bones Klinger.
Look, we had eyes on Justin Sysum. I mean, he is very controversial. However, he is amazingly talented. He's someone that we could use on Defiant. But accepting this match on such short notice shows me what a professional that he is. What an amazing man he could be at Defiant Wrestling.
All right. Well, that is huge. Well, I'm trying to digest that information while we just think about that for a minute. I've got a couple more questions for you. You've had a couple of people asking about SCC, the South Coast connection, and their antics in the past few weeks. Their new apparent entitledness, if that's a word, whereby they think because they're buddies with Will Ospreay, they should be granted the moon and everything else they want here in Defiant. Now, they interrupted what was a hell of a match in one of your innovations, the Defiant Breakout division, where the Billingtons were competing against each other, Mark and Thomas, in a singles match. SCC ruined that one. Now, this coming Sunday on Loaded, SCC will compete against the Billingtons in a tag team match. What are you expecting from those two young men on only their second match in the company? Given they're only, 15 and 17 years old, are they going to be able to hang in there with SCC?
First of all, let's just say, what an amazing idea that is. The Breakout division. I mean, I'll come up with some gems sometime, but that is one of the best that I've got. And to have the Dynamite Kid's nephews in the first match, that is unbelievable. We were the first to bring them to a worldwide audience. We were the first to bring them to any kind of attention. And they were out there in front of the Newcastle fans. And, we brought them there. That's such an amazing achievement. I think that both of those are going to be amazing in the future. However, SCC, speaking of SCC, okay, first of all, I know they're Will Ospreay's friends. I mean, Will Ospreay doesn't have many friends. So, the Will Ospreay's friends. Okay, what stroke does that have anywhere? Can I just walk into a Tesco and say, I want this stuff for free because I'm a Will Ospreay's friend? Is that how things work around here? I don't think...
I get the impression that's what they would think.
Well, I should try that. I think that's something I'm going to try. Let's see if that actually works. But I'm lost for words. Because to come out there and brag about, I'm Will Ospreay's friend and I should be in the main event and blah, blah, blah. Whatever happened to talent? Whatever happened to talent taking you to the top? Look, I'm giving them a match against the Dynamite's nephews. We'll see where this goes. Because in my mind, we have got the future of professional wrestling in the two brothers, or the two, what do we even call them? I can't remember.
The dynamic duo.
The dynamic duo. Well, that's a great name. It's a great name. I don't know who came up with that. Was that you, Dave Bradshaw? Did you come up with that name?
I would love to take credit, but unlike my commentary partner, I don't take credit for things I didn't do.
Well, it is a great name because when they wrestle, and I don't know if you saw the match. When you saw the match, when both of them move so much like their uncle, it's unbelievable. I mean, one of the two actually looks exactly like the Dynamite Kid. It's uncanny, the resemblance.
Yeah, young Thomas Billington looks just like his uncle. It is, and does the flying headbutt, does so many of those moves that we associate with Dynamite Kid, which makes it all the more unfortunate that SCC chose to ruin that singles match. But maybe they'll get their comeuppance on Sunday. I'm a little bit worried that my commentary partner and podcast co-host has gone deathly silent in the past 10 or 15 minutes. You still there?
I'm still trying to digest the fact that you actually got the general manager. Why didn't you tell me about this?
I did. I told you repeatedly at the start of the show he was coming on.
I didn't know you were being serious. That's not fair. That's what that is. I mean, listen, to be honest, if I was the kind of man who would, I would tell on you to my mother. But obviously I'm braver than that. So I'm just going to tell you, next time I see you, to your face, Dave Bradshaw, my mother will be there to give you a thorough dressing down.
Your mother disowned you years ago, and you know it.
Oh, don't bring that up, please. Jeez.
Well, anyway, this one might cheer you up. I've got one more question for you, General Ameen, from our podcast listeners. This is Sean Warrener. He's tweeted in before. He's got a question for you. He says, General Ameen, why are you trying to hold James R. Kennedy down and not let him reach his full potential of being Defiant's best commentator?
Okay, so first of all, Sean, I want to say thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. You are a loyal person. You're tweeting all the time, so thank you very much. Second of all, what are you on? I mean, are you watching the same stuff that I'm watching? Are you listening to the same stuff that I'm listening to? James R. Kennedy is a fraud.
What?
That's what you are, James R. Kennedy. That's what you are. You are a failed manager and a fraud. That's what you are.
Actually, on that note, Mr. Ameen, if I may, General Ameen, excuse me, I do have some evidence I would like to present to you. I've been talking about this for the past few weeks, and I'm reluctant to do it because, as I've said before, I don't want to come across like a bad loser, but I'm sure you're aware of the controversy surrounding the Defiant Commentator of the Year award that was awarded to Mr.
Yes.
Kennedy a few weeks ago now.
Yes.
Now, as you know, I was 80-20 up percentage-wise with just a few hours left. Let me finish. And I've since dug around a little bit more. I do have some inside sources. And I've been able to track the voting patterns of the last few hours of that vote. I'll email this information across to you. But just so you're aware, I just thought you might want to know that at about 4 p.m. on the final day of voting, there was suddenly, in the course of 5 minutes, 350 votes for James R. Kennedy from the same IP address from a computer in Moscow. Now, does that not strike you as slightly odd?
Look, the fact that we have viewers in Moscow doesn't surprise me at all because we are...
No, not that. Yeah, not that part. But the same computer at the same time, 350 times.
You know what? This is unbelievable. What did I say? He's a fraud. He's a fraud. That's it, Dave. Can you please email me that straight away?
You know what? Yeah, I will. I will email you that information, and I will leave it to your good judgment whether you want to review the destination of this year's Commentator of the Year award.
Can I just interject here a second and say that once again, this is terribly unfair. Now, as I've explained to you, Bradshaw, I should not be getting the blame for the fact that I have a huge, cavernous, gigantic, massive following in Russia. That's not my fault. Not my fault at all. And another thing, there is no way you're getting your hands on that Defiant Wrestling Commentator of the Year award because you didn't earn it. I did. I'm the Commentator of the Year. It's not fair. You can't continually... What we're going to do, have another vote? What do you think this is? The Scottish referendum? Just because you don't get your own way doesn't mean you can continually spew these conspiracy theories my way. It's disgusting.
Isn't it strange, though, that all of your hundreds and thousands of fans in Russia all share one computer?
Well, again, Russia, for being as big a country as it is, technologically, some parts of Moscow, was it you said? Some parts of Moscow, they don't really have access to that technology, and sometimes they have to share the same computers. And I think that at the end of the day, that's exactly what happened here. I mean, I can't be held... Oh, guys...
You're stuttering a bit.
No, it's not stuttering by it. It's my connection's getting dodgy. I can feel it starting to go. I could go at any second. But in Moscow, I think that it is definitely that they're sharing the same computers. And those 350 votes, I mean, that's wonderful news. The general manager should be delighted that we have that kind of audience, and also delighted that people like me so much as well. But the connection's terrible, guys. Hang on.
Well, yeah. While you're still here, because I know how terrible your connection can become at the most inopportune moments. I just wanted to give you one more chance to address our general manager, particularly on this subject of El Fantasmo's glasses, because I know you've been saying that it's a total waste of time.
I'm struggling to hear you, Dave. To be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You're kind of I know you live in a very fancy part of London, or maybe you're lying about that as well. But your connection's obviously terrible. Guys, if you're still there. Thank you for a wonderful pot. It was so good to have the general manager with us and join us. I believe that he's doing an excellent job as the Defiant Wrestling general manager. And if you're still there, guys, I hope you really enjoy the rest of your night. But I'm going to have to go and reset my computer or something. Certainly reset the IP address.
You are ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Are you saying you're gone now? I think he's saying he's gone.
Gone?
Sorry about that. Sorry about him in general.
I mean, all the money I'm paying him, and he can't afford a decent computer. He can't afford a decent, internet subscription. I don't understand. I mean, this guy is a coward. He's a weasel, and he's a fraud. And I am looking forward to this email, Dave Bradshaw, because as soon as I find out that there was any foul play, the decision is getting reversed.
Well, thank you for that. And he may be a weasel and a coward, but you, sir, are a gentleman and a scholar, and it's been a great pleasure to have you on the podcast. You'll come back, I hope, sometime in the near future.
Look, at this moment in time, Lan Austin brought me a lead, and I've witnessed some footage, and I need to absorb that footage. I need to question the appropriate people. So I may be a bit busy, but I promise you this, Dave. I will be back on the podcast as long as you will have me.
I'm just going to try one last time. It'd be bad journalism if I didn't ask. Just one more time. I'll try and push you on it. Can you tell us before Sunday who it is you're holding responsible for the theft of those glasses?
Look, the footage that I have seen is shocking. It is absolutely shocking. I would not have suspected this man.
Oh, it's a man.
I've already given way too much away here, Dave. You're going to have to tune in on Sunday. YouTube, free of charge. Get on it. Tune in and you will find out who it is.
All right. Well, on that mysterious note, we will end it. Thank you again to General Ameen for being here. Don't forget, of course, Unstoppable. We've been talking about it throughout the show. It happens on February the 9th at the Manchester Academy. There are still a few tickets available. So please, if you want to join us in Manchester next Saturday, February the 9th, wearedefiant.com/tickets for that. If you can't be there in person, of course, you can watch it on demand as well at access.wearedefiant.com. And if you go there and sign up now, if you are a new customer, you can have a 30-day free trial. So it will not cost you a penny to see Unstoppable in full next Saturday. Loaded, of course, is back on Sunday at 8 o'clock on the Defiant YouTube channel, free on YouTube every single week. Meanwhile, if you want to join the conversation on anything we've been talking about today, you can tweet us at DefiantRes. That's Defiant WRES. James R. Kennedy is at Top Class Kennedy. I'm at Dave Bradshaw. Prince Ameen, what's your Twitter handle?
It's at Real Prince Ameen. Make sure you get the real in there. There's some fraudsters out there, just like James R. Kennedy, who are trying to claim to be me. But Real Prince Ameen.
All right, so Real Prince Ameen, if you want to tweet the GM directly. Thank you again for listening this week and every week. We will see you on Sunday night for Loaded, and we will be back here next week for another episode of the ReLoaded podcast. We'll see you then.